we just we letting Paul George completely off the hook for comments he made about the Indiana Pacers, how he's going to leave the Indiana Pacers, and we don't get to criticize him for saying things like we don't have an identity, we don't play with toughness? I don't think you want to win with the Pacers, Paul George. Hot takes.
I don't think he wants to be at the Pacers.
He doesn't. He doesn't want to be there. And I would think there was nothing wrong with that. Don't call out your teammates then. Don't say you're not playing with toughness, because my only, look, I don't like the idea of hot takes. I don't. And I rarely get actually super angry. I'm actually working on not being angry about stupid things.
Yeah.
But I kind of have a thing against Paul George, who at one point was someone I thought could be the MVP this season going into it. The Pacers could be the 3 seed or the 2 seed, right? And Paul George can average that 25, 8, and 6. And Paul George could be the fearless leader of his team. He does not act like he wants to be there. And here's the craziest part of everything. We are almost 4 years removed. That's it, 4. People who are freshmen in college or seniors in college now.
Yeah.
Right? When a Paul George Pacers team took the effing Miami Heat to 7 games in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So I get it. Roy Hibbert's not the defensive player he was. He's also not there. But I'm saying when Roy Hibbert was there, he was instrumental to that team, amongst Frank Vogel being a great coach, getting the most out of his players. But don't criticize your team for not being tough when you give off this feeling that you don't want to be there. You don't want to play for that team. I want to go play for the Lakers. Oh, I'm blown away by the Jazz. That's what he said after the game when he played them. Man, blown away by that team. That would be a good team to play for. What are you doing? What are you doing? Take him off the cover of 2K.
You can't do that.
Take him off.
That's when it moves. The thing is about Paul George is you want to sympathize and you want to root for him because of that traumatic instance that was now 3 years removed since that happened. 2 years since his horrendous injury, so everyone wanted him to bounce back.
Which one? Can you pull it up really quick?
Let's not.
I don't know which one you're talking about. I just really need you to see it and visualize it again.
I blanked it from my memory after that moment because Jason thought it would be a good idea for me not to watch it.
It was before I did camera stuff. I didn't know if I wanted to do that, and it happened, and I told Francis he has to come in to shoot something, and he really has not let me.
It was horrendous. But, so with that, anyone that bounces back from that level of adversity, you're like, yes, let's see this guy
root for you.
Come to fruition, really get success under his belt and push them forward. And the Pacers have always been, since I've really been watching basketball, a there or thereabouts team. That's the only way I can really describe them. Is they're on the cusp of greatness. They have the ability, a couple of players it almost seems, but they're just not there. And I think that Paul George, I would be lying if it hasn't come to my head the thought of Paul George looking at Kevin Durant and thinking, what about me? And I know he's younger and he's not been around the block as much, but he's going to be thinking about that because this is someone that's, again, touted as an all-star, touted as a potential MVP candidate, averaging 22 points this season. And he's leading them the NBA in free throw shooting, 91%. Wow. But he's one person that can really push a franchise forward, and maybe a team that's on the cusp of being really good can really make them a contender. And he's spent a decent amount of time at the Pacers, but I don't appreciate this idea now that he's talking about how this is an important run now for the Pacers, and they're talking about how they really want to hit their stride. They've been kind of stuttering through the season.
Yeah, they have not. They're not going to find their stride.
Yeah, and I think that's just an idea he's putting forward to get the fans excited about the playoffs. But again, I think they're going to fall at the first or second hurdle.
I do too. I agree with you on both of those. The Pacers have a negative point differential going into the playoffs. If they're a 6 or 7 seed and they play if they play the Warriors. If the Warriors relocate to effing Philly. If they play the Wizards or the Celtics or the Cavs, they're getting beat like a
No, I'm not
cat.
saying that. Yes. We changed the saying, by the way. You have to check out the Child Block.
Beat a...
Well, Jason changed it to cat. I say beat like a pounding.
You ever know, beat a dead horse? I know. You've heard this. You've heard the phrase, not to beat a dead horse. Not to beat this horse to death. It's an American
okay.
Not to beat this cat to death. It's just better that it's a cat and not a dog. Because, God, I couldn't imagine doing that to a dog. But to a cat, I don't want to imagine it either. Just,
They need to figure out where that saying originated from.
Basically, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know if I can get through this straight face, but correct me if I'm wrong here. In ancient Greco-Roman times, second time Rome has come up today. The council of members would get together in the high towers of beautifully architected Rome. Everyone following, right? Architected Rome, and they take a horse, and after every time someone made the same point to speed up their consul, they would take a club and just hit the horse, just over and over and over again. And then when the horse died, they're like, damn it, I guess we can't bring up that there's no sanitation in Rome anymore.
I don't know whether this is the actual fact.
No, why would this be the actual fact?
I don't know, you said it with such convincing
I said,
manner.
I don't know if I can get through it not laughing. Francis, the reason that the Pacers were so good in 2013 and under Vogel was because, as Zach Lowe put it, they had one of the stingiest defenses. Defense can win you championships. Defense also can make you a playoff run nightmare. You can get past those freak offenses. Again, they beat the Heat, the LeBron, Bosh, Wade, Allen at that point.
2013.
Yes, Allen. Udonis Haslem. Entitled Dion Waiters.
Mario Chalmers.
Heat, a high-scoring, impossible to scheme against Heat. They took them to 7 games. They didn't beat them, so everyone's like, oh, what does it mean to take them to 7 games? They had pieces that weren't necessarily on paper enough to really beat anybody, you would think, but they really defied all expectations. So, Francis, it leads me to a what if. I'm looking at their draft. In 2010, the 10th pick, they drafted Paul George from Cal State Fresno. And then in 2011, they drafted a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, but Kawhi Leonard. Decent.
Not bad player.
Not bad. San Diego State University. And they traded him for George Hill immediately. Now, at the time, obviously...
No, you can't really foretell the future.
You couldn't, but it's amazing because could you imagine now that fantastic 2013 with, quote, one of the stingiest defenses of all time, adding in, at that point, a 2-year player who lives and breathes defense.
Yeah.
I think Kawhi Leonard gets off on defense. Not even kidding. That's how much the guy loves defense.
He would probably get a little moist at like a 0-0 football game.
He would be like,
oh my God, it's delicious.
So again, we're talking about a guy who probably 2 years into his career, he was not Finals MVP until the next year, and he was also playing with a team on Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu that he wouldn't have had as good of a Pacers team, but he would have had that effort in there. And Frank Vogel's a very good coach. I don't want to sell him short. And Kawhi ended up becoming the perfect Spur. I don't want Kawhi to have stayed on the Pacers. I think that what if changes a lot, actually. I don't know if the Spurs manhandle the Heat in a 5-game series in 2014 without the likes of Kawhi Leonard there. So it's a truly remarkable trade, and one that if it wasn't for me complaining about Paul George, looking this up, I don't know if I would have even remembered, because these are little quiet things that do happen, and it wasn't like we saw Kawhi in a Pacers jersey ever. He was traded immediately. But he's pretty good. Since then, they drafted a Plumlee. Take a guess which one. There's Miles, Mason, and
Mason.
It's Miles.
So one thing that I do want to say something really quick about Paul George is that I feel like he likes the idea that he knows he's the best player on that team and knows that others want him. Because he never misses an opportunity to talk about it. So I'm reading on in this article after they lost to the Celtics, and the fans kind of applauded him for his second half efforts, and he laughed and he's like, I guess they were in on the rumors because he was linked to a potential move there. And then when he's asked about the Lakers, he never looks like, if I'm someone who's really focused on the season and the team that I'm in, I'm not going to really acknowledge those trade rumors until it comes to the time where I'm not focused solely on the season. But he's always willing to really talk, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's Celtics, whether it's anything. And he's always, as you mentioned, complimentary of other teams. Now, I don't know if that's a tactic to make it seem like
he's interested.
He's interested, or if it's just a tactic that he just never seems to kind of downplay it. Like you imagine Draymond Green in the heat of a game, in the heat of the season, being asked, so there's trade rumors out there about potentially you maybe going wherever, Cavs. I don't think that he would play with it. I think
I have such respect for LeBron. I'd love to play with LeBron.
Yeah, and I feel like it I feel like it just kind of plays into this idea that he's weighing up his options at all times almost. So
I agree.
That's our take on Paul George.
I got one more very important note.
Interesting.
2 more important notes. One, his new shoes are awesome. Give him credit for that. 2, 1999 first round, 26th pick from the University of Pittsburgh, the Indiana Pacers drafted Vonteego Cummings. What a name. Did you see the bracket of names?
No.
No one's going to beat Kobe Buffalo Meat.
Wait, what, sorry?
Kobe Buffalo Meat. Buffalo Meat, one word.
Buffalo Meat.
Kobe Buffalo Meat. Kobe as in Bryant. Buffalo as in Buffalo Meat. Last thing.
I don't believe that's a real last name.
This is where my mind goes. Did you know Buffalo is the only word in the English language where you can use it 6 times consecutively and it makes a sentence? Buffalo, 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 Buffalo. That's actually true, not like the Greco-Roman.
Well, how does it make sense?
Because it's the only word that's a noun, adjective, and a verb.
Buffalo, Buffalo, Buffalo.
You can buffalo somebody. There can be a buffalo. It's also a place.
That's also an animal.
It's also an animal.
Very interesting.
Right. So if you substitute the animal buffalo for bison and the city buffalo for Boston, it would be Boston Bison, Buffalo, Boston Bison, Buffalo. Does that make sense? No, probably
Can we
not.
add like bitches in there?
We had bitches in there.
Boston bitches, Buffalo
Boston,
bitch ass bison.
So confused.
Could we add wings to that too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Boston bitches, Buffalo wings.
I like it.
By
You lost me at Buffalo.
Buffalo.